My parents excluded me from my sister's engagement party. I booked a first-class trip to Maui. When they saw my posts, the party fell apart in hours. I'm Clara, and I need to get this off my chest, since what occurred last weekend has forever damaged my connection with my family. This is going to be long, but believe me, the finish is worth it. For reference, I'm 27 years old, work as a marketing director for a tech firm in Seattle, and have always been the black sheep in my family. Emily, my younger sister, is 24 years old and has always been the golden kid. She's a nurse, engaged to her college sweetheart Eric, and appears to be infallible in the eyes of my parents. Meanwhile, I relocated across the nation for my profession, decided not to have children, and generally lived my life on my own terms. The favoritism has always been clear, but I've learned to cope with it. What happened last weekend, however, crossed every boundary imaginable. It began on Thursday, when my mother, Lux, called me during my lunch break. She appeared nervous, which is rare for her. "Hey sweetie, I just wanted to let you know that Emily and Eric are having a little get-together this Saturday. Nothing fancy, just a casual thing with close friends. I thought it was strange she was informing me about a random party I wasn't invited to, but I dismissed it." Okay, that seems entertaining for them. Exactly. It's really nothing extraordinary, just some folks coming over for dinner and drinks, very low-key. The talk felt unusual, but I didn't think much of it until Friday evening when my cousin Caroline contacted me and was furious. "Clara, please tell me you're kidding about not going to Emily's engagement party tomorrow." My blood turned cold. "What engagement party?" "The one your whole family has been planning for months. The one with a catered dinner, professional photographer, and custom decorations. The one where Eric's parents flew in from Denver and your extended family is driving hours to attend." I lay on my couch for a while, absorbing this wording. "Caroline, my mom specifically told me it was just a casual get-together with close friends." "Clara, there are 63 people invited. I have the invitation right here. It says, 'Join us for an elegant evening celebrating Emily and Eric's engagement.' This is not casual." After Caroline sent me photos of the elaborate invitation, complete with gold foil lettering and RSVP cards, I called my mom back. My hands shook while I dialed. "Mom, I just found out about Emily's actual engagement party tomorrow." There was a lengthy pause. "Oh honey, like I said, it's really just a small gathering." 63 people is not small. There's catering, decorations, and a photographer. Why wasn't I invited to my own sister's engagement party? A second sigh. "Well," Emily thought, "we all thought it might be better if you weren't there. You know how you can be sometimes." "How I can be? What does that mean?" "You know, Clara, you tend to make things about yourself, and with your lifestyle being so different from Emily's, we just thought it would be more comfortable for everyone if this was more of a traditional celebration." I was speechless. My own family had purposefully removed me from one of my sister's most important events, and then lied to me about it. "Mom, I'm her sister, her only sister." "I understand, dear, but Emily wants this day to be perfect. She's worried that you'll say something inappropriate, that people will ask why you're still single, or that your job will keep you so far away. She just wants to celebrate with Eric's family and our close friends without any complications." The word complications struck me like a slap. That is what I was to them, a complication. "I see. Well, I hope Emily has her perfect day." I hung up and burst into tears. Not only was I hurt, but I was also angry. This is how they compensated me for everything I'd done for this family. Paying Dad's medical bills when he had a heart attack, assisting them with their mortgage when Dad lost his job, and going home for every holiday despite the expense. But then something changed. I dried my tears and began plotting. I'd been saving for a trip for months, but I kept putting it off due to work. I had enough money to do something great. I suddenly knew what I was going to do. I contacted my best friend, Seren, who works at a premium travel firm. "Seren, I need you to perform a miracle. I want the most incredible solo trip you can arrange for this weekend, beginning tomorrow morning. Money is not an issue. Clara, it's Friday night, everything good will be booked. Please, Rach. I'm desperate. My family just showed me what they think of me, and I need to do something great for myself." Seren performed her magic. By midnight, she had booked me a weekend at the Four Seasons Resort in Maui, which included first-class flights, an ocean view room, a private beach cabana, spa treatments, and a sunset helicopter tour. I didn't mind that the overall sum exceeded my regular 3-month spending limit. Saturday morning, as my family prepared for Emily's small gathering, I boarded a first-class aircraft to Hawaii. I chose to capture everything on social media, but not in a vengeful manner. I sincerely wanted to celebrate my own life and prove to myself that I deserved wonderful things, even if my family didn't believe so. My first post featured a photo of my first-class seat and a glass of champagne. Sometimes you have to celebrate yourself. Off on a spontaneous solo adventure to Maui. Here's to new beginnings and knowing your worth. The reactions were instantaneous. Friends were astonished and thrilled for me. Several coworkers expressed jealousy. My college buddy Maris commented, "This is why I love you, Clara." Living your best life. When I arrived in Maui, I snapped a snapshot of the resort's entryway, which included magnificent tropical flora. Paradise found. Sometimes the best company is your own. Ham solo travel, and Maui life. Living my best life. The room was really gorgeous, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific. A private terrace, a marble bathroom with a soaking tub, and free champagne and chocolate-covered strawberries. I posted a photo of the view with the caption, "Room with a view." Grateful for jobs that let you have adventures like this. Blessed ocean view self-care. But the real brilliance came when I arrived at my private beach cabana. The resort had prepared a lovely spread of fresh fruit, gourmet sandwiches, and tropical drinks. I was wearing a new sundress from the airport boutique. My hair was blowing in the ocean breeze, and the sunset behind me was quite stunning. I requested another guest to photograph me as I raised my glass to the camera, with the ocean and sunset in the background. I appeared to be truly joyful, which I was, and utterly radiant. Cheers to the most beautiful Saturday evening. Nothing like a sunset in paradise to remind you that life is gorgeous. Sometimes the best parties are the ones you throw for yourself. I posted it around 5 in the afternoon. Hawaii time was 9 p.m. Back home, it was Pacific time, which coincided with Emily's engagement party. My phone service was working flawlessly thanks to my carrier's international plan. I was aware, however, that I would most likely incur significant roaming charges for all of the calls I anticipated receiving after people saw the ad. Within minutes, my phone began to vibrate with notifications. Friends and acquaintances liked and commented. My employer said, "Clara, this looks incredible. You deserve this." My neighbor remarked, "Living vicariously through you right now." But then I started getting all sorts of messages. The first came from my cousin Caroline. "Wait, Clara, are you seriously in Hawaii right now, while Emily's party is happening?" Then my Aunt Anna. "Clara, honey, are you okay? Your mother is asking about you." But the stream really started when people at Emily's party started seeing my posts. My family had not anticipated that many of the attendees would be my social media acquaintances. Eric's sister Iris, several of my high school pals, and other family friends who had known me since infancy. They were all at the party and were watching my posts. Live on their phones. I had a public Instagram account, and the majority of these users had been following my postings for years. Caroline, one of the few people who knew the true story regarding my exclusion, gave me updates throughout the evening, so I learned what happened next later. Around 9:45 p.m., Eric's sister Iris was scrolling through Instagram when she came across my sunset photo. She showed it to a few people, and word quickly traveled throughout the gathering. "Wait, isn't that Clara, Emily's sister? Is she in Hawaii right now?" People began pulling out their phones to read my posts. The images were magnificent, and the descriptions were courteous, but it was evident that this was a spontaneous single trip. Mrs. Calloway, Eric's mother, reportedly addressed Emily directly. "Honey, where is your sister tonight? She's not here, but she's posting these beautiful photos from Hawaii." According to Caroline, Emily went totally white. She had other plans," Mrs. Calloway persisted. "Other plans? She flew to Hawaii today. That seems like quite a coincidence that she'd plan a luxury vacation on the same day as your engagement party." This is when the situation began to deteriorate. Eric's father, Mr. Calloway, who had always been fond of me at family events, spoke up. "Lux, I have to ask, was Clara not invited tonight?" My mother, Lux, reportedly began stuttering. "Well, it's complicated. She lives so far away, and we kept it small." But Caroline jumped in. "Small? There are 60 people here. And Clara lives in Seattle, not Antarctica. She could have easily flown here if she'd been invited." Eric's parents exchanged looks. Mrs. Calloway remarked, "I specifically asked about Clara when we were planning this because I wanted to meet her, but you told me she couldn't make it due to work commitments." That's when everything unraveled. Emily burst into tears and said that they had not asked me because they were concerned that I would cause trouble or make disrespectful comments about the relationship. Eric appeared shocked. Emily, we didn't talk about not inviting your sister. I assumed she couldn't come due to distance or work. Eric's parents appeared concerned. Mrs. Calloway exclaimed, I cannot believe you would exclude your own daughter from her sister's engagement party and then lie about it. The party atmosphere changed radically. People were uneasy, muttering amongst themselves, and several guests began making reasons to depart early. But things grew worse. Aunt Hillary, my father's sister, appeared to have been drinking and refused to accept any of my family's reasons. She raised her voice so that everyone could comprehend. This is absolutely disgraceful. Clara has done more for this family than anyone else. She paid for Jack's medical bills, helped with your mortgage, and flies here for every holiday despite living across the country. And this is how you repay her? By excluding her and lying about it. While she's off living her best life in Hawaii, you're here making excuses for treating your own daughter like garbage. Caroline was furious. Eric's parents opted to leave. Mrs. Calloway informed Emily, we're disappointed in how this was handled. We'll talk more when emotions aren't so high. By 10 p.m., over half of the 60 guests had left early. Emily was crying in the restroom. Eric was arguing with my parents in the kitchen, and the professional photographer was uncomfortably packing away his equipment because the party had completely fallen apart. That was when the phone calls began. The first call arrived around 10:20 p.m. Hawaii time is 1:20 a.m. back home. It was my mother, and she was crying uncontrollably. Clara, honey, you need to come home right now. The party is ruined. Emily is devastated, and Eric's parents left. Everyone's asking about you and your Hawaii trip. Mom, I'm in Hawaii. I can't just come home. And why would I? I wasn't invited to begin with. Please, Clara. Emily needs her sister. She's upstairs crying and saying the whole engagement is ruined. The engagement is ruined because I'm not there? That doesn't make sense. Mom, people are saying terrible things about how we treated you. Eric's family is upset. Aunt Hillary gave us a lecture in front of everyone. You have to fix this. I have to fix this? I have to fix the situation where you deliberately excluded me and lied about it? Emily grabbed the phone. Clara, you're being so selfish, she exclaimed through tears. You knew this was my engagement party, and you deliberately planned this trip to ruin it. Emily, I didn't know it was your engagement party. Mom told me it was a casual get-together with friends. I only found out the truth yesterday from Caroline. That's not true. You knew, and you did this to hurt me. Emily, I literally had no idea. Check the timestamps on my flight booking if you want. I booked this trip after I found out I wasn't invited to what I was told was a casual dinner party. Eric seemed to have taken the phone then. Clara, I'm so sorry. I had no idea you weren't invited. I thought you couldn't come because of work or distance. If I had known, I would have insisted you be here. Eric. It's not your fault. You didn't know my family decided I was a complication to be managed rather than a sister to be celebrated. The calls kept coming all night, and I was thankful for my international phone plan, even though I knew it would cost me a fortune in roaming fees. My father Jack called, crying and apologizing. Aunt Hillary called to tell me how proud she was of me and that my parents owed me a big apology. Caroline called with updates on the party's aftermath. But the most intriguing call came Sunday morning from Eric's mother, Mrs. Calloway. Clara, I got your number from Caroline. I wanted to call and apologize for what happened last night. Mrs. Calloway, you don't need to apologize. You didn't do anything wrong. I feel terrible that we celebrated an engagement party while Eric's future sister-in-law was deliberately excluded. That's not how family should work. I appreciate that more than you know. I also wanted you to know that Eric and Emily are going to have some serious conversations about family dynamics before this wedding moves forward. Eric is reconsidering some things. That afternoon, I received a lengthy text from Eric. Clara, I've been thinking about what happened all night. I'm horrified that my future in-laws excluded you and then lied about it. I'm even more concerned about Emily's reaction when she was caught. Instead of apologizing to you, she blamed you for ruining her day, despite the fact that you were the one who was wronged. Emily and I are going to couples counseling, and I'm insisting that your entire family go to family therapy. I won't be a part of a family that treats people this way, so I need to see some significant changes in how your family treats you, before I can move forward with wedding planning. I was stunned. Eric was truly standing up for me in a manner that my own family never did. Meanwhile, my social media was flooded with support. People were commenting on my posts with messages like, "You look so happy, and this is what self-care looks like." Several friends had figured out the timing and were subtly supportive, saying things like, "Good for you for choosing yourself." The best part was that I was actually having a great time. The helicopter tour on Sunday was really stunning. I saw whales from the air, soared over volcanic landscapes, and saw the sunset paint the water in stunning colors. I shared a photo from inside the helicopter with the remark, "Sometimes you have to rise above to see how beautiful life really is." Grateful for this perspective. Helicopter tour to Maui now offers beauty and a fresh viewpoint. Monday morning, while I was getting ready to leave for the airport, Emily called me. She wasn't crying this time, but her voice was soft and defeated. "Clara, Eric says he's not sure about the wedding." "Emily, I'm sorry to hear that, but this isn't about me. This is about how our family treats people and how you reacted when you were caught excluding me." "But you ruined my engagement party by going to Hawaii." "Emily, I went to Hawaii because I found out I was deliberately excluded from my own sister's engagement party and then lied to about it. I took a beautiful trip for myself instead of sitting at home feeling sorry for myself. That's not ruining your party. That's choosing my own happiness over your drama." "But everyone was talking about you instead of celebrating me." "Emily, do you hear yourself? Everyone was talking about the fact that you excluded your own sister from your engagement party. That's a choice you made, not something I did to you." There was a prolonged pause. "Eric wants me to apologize to you." "Do you want to apologize to me?" Another pause. "I don't think I did anything wrong by wanting my engagement party to be perfect." "Then we have nothing more to discuss." I hung up and blocked her number. The flight back was bittersweet. I'd enjoyed the best weekend of my life, but I was returning to a drastically different family scenario. When I came home, I had 17 missed calls from my parents and a dozen text messages urging me to make things right with Emily. But before I called my parents, I needed to understand what had transpired. I sat in my apartment on Tuesday evening, going at images from Hawaii, and began to reflect on all of the signs I had missed over the years. There came my college graduation, and my parents spent the whole ceremony discussing Emily's acceptance into the nursing program. During the subsequent family supper, the topic of Emily's accomplishments came up often. When relatives inquired about my marketing degree, my mother promptly responded with information about Emily's clinical rotations. Then there was the time I was promoted to marketing director at the age of 26, becoming the youngest person in that position at my company. I called home, ecstatic to tell the news. My father, Jack, replied, "That's nice, honey. Did we tell you Emily made Dean's List again? Or the Christmas when I flew home after working 18-hour days to make the trip possible, bearing expensive gifts for everyone? Emily had forgotten to bring me anything, so my mother quietly gave her one of the things I had brought for Mom to give to me instead. Emily felt so bad, Mom explained. We didn't want her to be embarrassed." The medical bill scenario was particularly illuminating now that I thought about it. When Dad had a heart attack 3 years ago, I promptly deposited $5,000 to cover the deductible and expenses. I didn't hesitate, didn't ask for repayment arrangements, and simply sent the money because family helps family, right? But 6 months later, when I was dealing with my own financial problem when my car was damaged, and my insurance company underpaid me, I inquired if they might provide me with a $2,000 temporary loan. I would have repaid it with interest within 3 months. "Oh honey, we're still recovering from Dad's medical expenses," she said. "Maybe you could ask your company for an advance." Caroline reported 2 weeks later that my parents had given Emily $3,000 to help her settle into her new apartment with Eric. "They're so generous," Caroline had commented. Emily was stressed about moving in together and having nice furniture for Eric's parents to see. I had taken out a credit card cash advance to cover my transportation costs while my folks decorated Emily's love nest. The mortgage scenario was considerably worse in retrospect. Dad lost his job 2 years ago as part of a layoff. They were 3 months behind on their mortgage payments and faced foreclosure procedures. I depleted my whole emergency savings, $12,000, to catch up and give them breathing room. "Clara, you saved our home," Dad remarked through tears. "We'll pay you back as soon as I find work." Jack did find work, and it was a fantastic job that paid even more than his prior position. Instead of repaying me, they used their newfound financial stability to give Emily a lavish graduation celebration after she graduated nursing school. The celebration cost at least $8,000. I knew since Caroline assisted with planning and said that the catering budget alone was $4,000. When I politely inquired about repayment after viewing the party expenses, Mom became defensive. Clara, we're still getting back on our feet. And Emily's graduation was a once-in-a-lifetime event. Surely you understand that Emily's graduation was once in a lifetime. But my financial sacrifice to keep their home was just expected family duty. Once I started searching, the pattern appeared to be everywhere. Every holiday I flew home, spending money on flights that I could barely afford as a young professional trying to advance my career. Emily drove 2 hours from her apartment, paying approximately $40 on gas. But I was the one who never made time for my family because I lived so far away. Emily was concerned about her nursing boards, so I spent weeks on the phone with her every night, assisting her with her studies and providing emotional support. When I was dealing with a horrific situation with a previous supervisor who was sexually assaulting me, I contacted home for help and was told, well, maybe you should consider whether moving so far away from family was worth it if your job situation is so difficult. They did not offer to help me get a lawyer, expressed outrage on my behalf, or even asked follow-up questions about what was going on. Instead, they cited my problem as evidence that my life choices were incorrect. But when Emily had a disagreement with a tough patient's family at the hospital, the entire family rallied around her. Jack investigated her rights as a healthcare worker. Mom complained to the hospital administration, and the family spent dinner discussing techniques for dealing with workplace obstacles. The same type of problem, but radically different amounts of support. Even my professional success was somewhat troublesome. When I was published in a local business journal for my unique marketing strategy that boosted our company's client base by 40%, I eagerly shared the piece with my family. Emily responded, "Must be nice to have a job where you get attention for your work. As a nurse, I save lives every day, and nobody writes articles about me." My parents responded by echoing Emily's comment and adding, "Emily has such a humble heart. She serves others without needing recognition." My professional success became evidence of my vanity in comparison to Emily's wonderful altruism. Another obvious example of double standards was in the dating scene. I had been single for a year after breaking up with my ex-boyfriend Callum, who wanted me to return to our hometown and give up my profession so we could start a true life together. I chose my work and independence. My family's reaction was relentless pressure on my biological clock, suggestions that I was being too fussy, and gentle reminders that successful women must occasionally sacrifice to find love. Meanwhile, Emily dated Eric for 6 months before moving in together, got engaged 8 months later, and was praised for knowing what she wanted and not wasting time when she met the right guy. The same life decisions were phrased radically differently depending on whose daughter was making them. The more I thought about it, the more I understood that the engagement party exclusion was not an outlier. It was the result of years of being regarded as a secondary character in my own family drama. I was the daughter who could be relied on for financial assistance, emotional labor, and crisis management, but who couldn't be expected to behave appropriately during crucial occasions. I was trustworthy enough to save their home, but too embarrassing to involve in family milestones. The realization was absolutely liberating. I had worked so hard to get their acceptance and fair treatment, but the game was rigged from the beginning. Emily would always be the adored daughter who could do no wrong, while I would always be the troublemaker whose contributions were expected but whose presence was conditional. Caroline contacted Wednesday evening to provide additional information regarding the party's aftermath. "Clara, you should know that people are still talking about what happened. Not in a gossipy way, but people are genuinely concerned about how you were treated." "What do you mean?" "Well, Eric's Aunt Isolde pulled me aside at the grocery store yesterday. She said she's been thinking about the party all week and feeling sick about it. She kept saying, 'That poor girl was in Hawaii posting these beautiful happy photos while her family was celebrating without her. How could they exclude their own daughter?'" Caroline went on. "And Mrs. Varela from church approached your mom after service Sunday. She said she saw your Hawaii post and wanted to know why you weren't at Emily's party. When your mom gave some vague excuse about distance and timing, Mrs. Varela said, 'Lux, that girl flew to Hawaii on the same day as the party. She clearly could have flown here if she'd been invited.'" How did Mom react to that? Aunt Hillary, who was standing close, stated, "Your mom just changed the subject and walked away." However, Mrs. Varela informed several other individuals, and there is now an undercurrent of people questioning how your parents handled the situation. This was intriguing. The societal ramifications went beyond merely Eric's family being outraged. The broader community was beginning to recognize the situation for what it was. "There's more," Caroline explained. "Eric's cousin Lucian, who's getting married next spring, specifically asked his fiancée to make sure you get an invitation to their wedding. He said, After seeing how Eric's future sister-in-law was excluded from the engagement party, I want to make sure we don't accidentally overlook anyone important. That's really thoughtful of them, I replied. Clara, people are viewing this as a warning story, and everyone is now reviewing their own guest list to ensure that they are not omitting people who should be invited. Your circumstance is making others reconsider how they handle family members. The ripple effects were greater than I had anticipated. My family's turmoil was sparking a community discussion about how families should regard one another. My college friend Maris called on Thursday, bringing another revelation. We'd been doormates freshman year and kept in touch via social media, but we hadn't spoken in months. Clara, I hope this isn't overstepping, but I saw your Hawaii posts over the weekend, and I've been thinking about them ever since. Oh, thanks. It was an incredible trip. The thing is, I remember how you used to talk about your family dynamics in college. You were always so stressed about not being good enough for them, always trying to prove yourself worthy of their love and approval. I had forgotten how much I used to confide in Maris during late-night discussions in our dorm room. Looking at your Hawaii photos though, you looked genuinely happy in a way I hadn't seen in your posts for years. And then I figured out the timing with your sister's engagement party, and it all clicked into place. What clicked, Clara? You literally chose yourself over their dysfunction. You could have spent that weekend being miserable about being excluded, but instead, you gave yourself the most beautiful celebration. You looked radiant in those photos because you were finally putting your own happiness first. Maris's insight was enlightening. She was correct that I appeared different in those images, not just because of the lovely environment, but also because I was actually celebrating myself rather than seeking approval from others. I've been thinking about this a lot, Maris told me, because I've been in a similar dynamic with my own family. Not as extreme, but that same feeling of constantly trying to prove you deserve their love. Seeing you choose yourself so beautifully made me realize I need to make some changes too. Really? I've been dating this guy my parents disapprove of because he's not in a traditional career path. He's an artist. I've been hiding the relationship and feeling ashamed instead of just living my life. Your Hawaii weekend made me realize that I can't keep shrinking myself to fit their expectations. That's amazing, Jess. I'm telling my parents about Evan this weekend, and if they can't be happy for me, that's their choice. But I'm not hiding my happiness anymore, just to make them comfortable. It was great to learn that my decision to choose myself had motivated others to do the same. Perhaps there was something more going on here than just my particular family drama. Friday evening, I received an unexpected text message from Eric. Clara, would you be willing to talk? I know this is a weird situation, but I'd really value your perspective on some things. I called him back, curious what he wanted to talk about. Eric, how are you holding up with everything? Honestly, not great. I've been doing a lot of thinking this week about family dynamics and how people treat each other, and I keep coming back to what happened at the engagement party. I'm sorry this has been so stressful for you, Clara. Can I ask you something directly? Has your family always treated you this way? I paused to evaluate how honest I should be. What do you mean exactly? I mean, have you always been the one who gives more than you receive? The one who's expected to accommodate everyone else, but isn't accommodated in return? Why do you ask? Because I've been thinking about all my interactions with your family over the past 2 years, and I'm seeing patterns I didn't notice before. Eric went on to relate some uncomfortably correct observations. He'd noted that I was the one who always traveled for family functions, whilst Emily was accommodated. He'd noticed that conversations concerning my accomplishments were swiftly turned to Emily's. He had noticed that I was asked for guidance and financial assistance, but not involved in celebrations and accomplishments. The engagement party wasn't an isolated incident, was it? He inquired. No, Eric. It was just the most obvious example of a long-standing pattern. I need to ask you something else, and please be honest. Do you think Emily is aware of how unequally you're treated? This was a question I had avoided asking myself. I think Emily benefits from the inequality, and she's chosen not to examine it too closely. Whether that's conscious awareness or willful blindness, I'm not sure it matters. That's what I was afraid of, Eric explained gently. Eric, can I ask why you're asking me these questions? Because I'm trying to figure out if I'm about to marry someone who participates in treating her own sister badly, or if she's just been unconsciously following her parents' lead. And I'm realizing it might be the former. What makes you say that? Her reaction when she got caught excluding you. Instead of being horrified and apologetic, she was angry at you for ruining her party by living your life. That wasn't the response of someone who made an innocent mistake. That was the response of someone who thought she had the right to exclude you and was angry about facing consequences. Eric was seeing the problem more clearly than I had anticipated. And the more I think about it, he told me, the more I realize she's never once mentioned feeling bad about how your family treats you. She's never advocated for you or questioned whether things are fair. She just accepts the benefits of being the favorite and doesn't think about the cost to you. Eric, I don't want to be the reason your relationship ends. Clara, you're not the reason. Her character is the cause. The engagement party simply made it impossible to ignore. After we hung up, I recognized that Eric's questions had helped me clarify a crucial point. It wasn't only my parents' favoritism anymore. Emily was an adult who chose to exclude me and showed no remorse when discovered. That revealed something essential about her personality. Saturday morning I awoke with more clarity about things than I have in years. I prepared myself a wonderful breakfast, sat on my balcony with my coffee, and began preparing the call to my parents. I called my folks and told them that we needed to have a serious chat. Clara, Jack, I need you to understand something. What happened this weekend wasn't about a party, it was about you deciding that I'm an embarrassment to this family and then lying to my face about it. Clara, that's not true, Jack said. Jack, you excluded me from one of the most important events in Emily's life because you thought I would cause drama. Then when I found out and chose to do something beautiful for myself instead of wallowing, you called me selfish for not fixing the situation you created. We just wanted Emily's day to be perfect, my mom explained. And you decided that meant I couldn't be there. Do you understand how that feels, to know that your own family thinks your presence would ruin an important celebration? There was silence. And instead of apologizing when you were caught, you tried to make me responsible for fixing it. You wanted me to fly home from Hawaii to make Emily feel better about excluding me. There was more stillness. Here's what's going to happen, I explained. I'm done being treated like a second-class member of this family. I'm done being expected to contribute financially and emotionally while being excluded from important events. I'm done being called selfish when I prioritize my own well-being over your drama. Clara, what are you saying? My mother inquired. I'm saying that until you can acknowledge what you did wrong and make genuine changes, I'm not participating in family events. I won't be coming home for holidays. I won't be contributing to family expenses, and I won't be available for crisis management. You can't be serious, Jack replied. I'm completely serious. I spent this weekend in paradise being celebrated by strangers at a resort while my own family was excluding me from a party. That told me everything I need to know about my priorities. The aftermath has been interesting. Eric postponed the wedding indefinitely. He informed Caroline that he can't marry into a family that treats people the way mine did, and he doesn't believe Emily realizes why what she did was wrong. Some extended. Family members have contacted me to say they are pleased of how I handled the situation. Others have pressed me to be a greater person and reunite with Emily. My parents have alternated between apologizing and attempting to guilt me into returning home. Emily has been sharing heartbreaking words on social media about family betrayal and individuals who desert you when you need them the most. But here's the thing. I've never felt happier about myself. The weekend in Hawaii was more than just a vacation. It was a vow that I esteem myself enough to choose my own happiness over other people's problems. I wasted years attempting to win love from people who had already decided I wasn't worthy of celebration. Now I'm planning additional solo adventures. I'm creating boundaries with my family that I should have established years ago. I'm concentrating on the relationships in my life with individuals that genuinely want me around. My employer elevated me last week, citing my recent confidence and self-advocacy skills. My friends keep telling me that I seem different, happier, and more confident. 3 months later, Eric and Emily split up. Eric told Caroline that the engagement party situation exposed him to many variables he hadn't noticed before, and Emily's refusal to accept responsibility for her actions was a deal-breaker for him. Emily blamed me for the breakup, of course. But Caroline informed me that Eric stated that his decision had nothing to do with me, and everything to do with Emily's personality and our family's dysfunction. My parents have begged me to return home and support Emily during her split. They claim she needs her sibling. I informed them that Emily had made it apparent that she only needs her sister when it is convenient for her. When she wanted to celebrate anything significant, she thought I was too much of a hassle to include. I'm doing another solo trip next month, this time to Italy. I plan to eat delicious food, visit ancient ruins, and celebrate the fact that I have finally learned to respect myself enough to walk away from individuals who do not value me. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting back at those who have wronged you. Sometimes you're enjoying such a great life without them that they realize what they lost when they decided you weren't worth staying around. Friends still comment on my Hawaii images, telling me how joyful and glowing I looked, because I was. For the first time in years, I chose myself over my family's problems, and it felt great. That weekend showed me that I do not need my family's permission to enjoy my life. I can plan my own party, go on my own travels, and generate my own bliss. And honestly, the view from Hawaii was far more stunning than whatever drama was going on at Emily's engagement party. Anyway, here's an update. 6 months later, I'm engaged to an excellent man I met at work who finds my independence and self-respect appealing rather than bothersome. We are planning a small destination wedding in Tuscany. And yes, my family is invited, but only if they can sincerely enjoy our happiness without focusing on their own problems. The irony is not lost on me that, although Emily's engagement failed because she couldn't treat her own sister with basic respect, I found love with someone who valued exactly the qualities that my family deemed problematic. Being excluded from the incorrect party is sometimes the finest thing that can happen to you, since it gives you the opportunity to locate the appropriate celebration.